just so you guys understand, okay? And there's another thing, which is in Ukraine currently, we are pushing the cutting edge of employing commercial off-the-shelf thermal optics in combat. I don't know if you guys can kind of process that. Like, there is no class that I can take as a professional instructor that teaches me how to use this. I have to develop the class. And I was developing this class. You can see it's still wet and muddy from last night. Literally, there's 2 Ukrainian Americans and some other of my students. We're out there in a freaking storm, just wind and rain and sleet and hail. And we were out there all night up until 3 in the morning because we're practicing basically shooting long distance in the complete pitch dark. Learning how to calibrate these things, learning how to basically fiddle with their menus, because they're digital devices and they're goofy. But we can actually boot these up and we can look around with them. You can play around inside. So this is basically what we call a thermal clip-on. It's a very, very specialized piece of equipment that allows a sniper to have his day optic, which I'll show you in a second, and you can detach the nighttime optic. And then during the daytime, you have a regular sniper scope, which is here, the long one. And then at night, you put this one on, and it doesn't change anything on your normal rifle scope. So this allows you to actually dial everything for your wind and your distance to shoot extremely far. And this is a very high resolution. This particular unit costs $5,500, and that's a pretty good price, and this is an American price. If we were to buy, so by the way, in the United States, these things are kind of, they're ITAR restricted, so they're slightly challenging from the legal department to export them. But you can buy them in Europe, but guess how much these things cost in Europe? This same type of scope in Europe would cost over $7,000 US. So how many pairs of socks are we gonna provide? They're important, yes. Warm clothing, long johns, like long underwear, winter clothing, Gore-Tex, like I have Gore-Tex jackets and pants here, very important. But at the same time, like this right here, allows a sniper team to interdict the enemy out to 600, 700, 800 meters in the middle of the dark, and winters are long, and they are dark, and they are cold, and this thing sees heat. You guys will play with it today. We can look at each other, and you can just see like what a high-quality, high-resolution thermal looks like. It sees heat. It doesn't care about day or night. It doesn't care about any light conditions. It'll look through rain and fog, and it just sees anything that's warm. And if it's warm, it pops out. It's just really, really obvious. So of course, you've seen the videos, but here's a real one. You guys can take your turn. So I'm gonna set this one down, and I'll just show you the other ones. Gore-Tex jackets, very important, but they're not the star of the show today. This is another one, so similar. This is what we call a thermal rifle scope. These are more common than those ones. This does not require a day optic. Not at the same time. We need a day optic that we quick detach, and then we put a night optic on. And this one, again, is very easy to use if you are trained on it, but there is literally no training manual on how to use these. We are currently developing this training manual. Like, we have to do it on the fly. Guys, I have guys over in Ukraine, and they have a great rifle, and they have a okay thermal optic, and people just hand it to them and be like, hey, figure this out. They don't have the logistical support, they don't have the training support, they don't have the know-how, they don't have the shooting ranges, they don't have the time, the ammunition to figure out, like, they have the equipment sometimes, but they don't know how to use it. And so when you guys are supporting my mission, I come back in California, I'm working on how to build the training doctrine, like the training methodology, and my students help to pay for that. My students will pay tuition, and together, as I work with them, we develop and we push forward the envelope for training doctrine of how to use these in the dark. Because these are like hunting optics. They're like drones. Really, they're very similar to drones. They're rich people's toys. Okay, they're not durable. They're not made for the military. And so to kind of fiddle with their quirks because they're not well developed as military technology, and then apply them in a way that they weren't really designed. You know, this was designed for shooting coyotes in Texas in the dark. That's what it was made for, you know. Which I don't care about shooting coyotes. They didn't hurt me, so I don't mess with them. Right? But like that's what it was designed for. A rich person who has nothing better to do than kill wild animals. It's not really my thing, you know. But on the other hand, there are plenty of other two-legged wild animals that do need to be killed. See what I'm saying? All right. So we'll pass this around. You guys will get a chance to look at it. Where your money goes. Here's another example. Let me see. Can someone hand me those two pieces on the table, Mr. John? Thank you. So forget the microphone for a second. So this rifle is not an M14. This is my rifle. It's a shortened version of the M14, but it's the same. It's the same thing. But where does your money go? This type of weapon, the United States built in the mid-50s. It's an upgrade to the M1 Garand rifle, which we used in the Second World War. And during the Second World War, that was a great rifle at the time, but it's really an antique in the modern age. And so, you know, of course, this type of rifle we used during the Vietnam War, and quickly the guys got rid of it because it just wasn't the right weapon for the jungles. Well, guess what? It is the right weapon for fighting the open plains of Eastern Europe. It's the right weapon for that. It's powerful, it's long range, it's accurate, it's hard hitting, it's very durable, it's heavy, but if you're in mostly static positions, defensive positions, it's a great weapon system. The problem is with this type of antique, I mean, these things are from the 50s. These weapons are from the late 50s, like post-Korean War, before Vietnam War. And a bunch of countries, Moldova, Latvia, you know, who else? Estonia, a bunch of these small countries, the United States had given them a bunch of these rifles, M14 rifles. And so those countries then in turn gave them to Ukraine. M14s are quite common in Ukraine, but guess what? Nobody has the accessories. Nobody has magazines. If you don't have magazines, it's like not having gas in your car. Like you know how much this thing costs? This little box right here is $50. This little thing right here is $50. It's really hard to get this thing. And so I spent my own money to buy 28 of them.